D-Day, Judgment Day, the day of reckoning is here for the NBA teams who are in rebuild mode. It's the NBA Draft Lottery for 2023. It's upon us, also known as the Victor Wembanyama Sweepstakes. We obviously know the kind of prospect that Victor Wembanyama is, generational talent, an alien. You know, the skill set that he possesses at that size is incredible, and whatever team picks him up in the draft based off what happens today in this lottery, in luck, has struck gold. And, you know, it brings the true definition to the word lottery, and, you know, they've hit the jackpot pretty much. So obviously we know what he brings. He's arguably the greatest prospect ever in NBA history. Some people still argue LeBron is still a better prospect at the same age. But if you can have any semblance of the career that LeBron had and still being able to play 19 years later, I think that'll be a massive success, and hopefully lives up to the hype, because obviously he's brought a lot of attention upon himself with the way he's performed and obviously with the skill set that he does bring to the NBA. So fingers crossed he can live up to it, because I think it'll be an amazing thing to see a guy like that. There's some good players in this draft to be picked up, and I think other teams can still strike gold in this particular draft. There might be some hidden gems out there in the back part of the lottery and the later part of the draft, but obviously being a Wizards fan, I hope we actually pick somebody who can have an impact and have that star potential from the get-go, because the jury's still out on Johnny Davis, who we picked last year with the 10th overall pick. And even though Corey Kispert's come good at the back part of this season, he's still got those question marks as to how far he can actually take his game and how much potential he really does have. So fingers crossed the Wizards make the right decision, because jury's still out on our front office and their coaching staff and where we are in terms of team structure. Are we rebuilding? Are we still trying to compete for the playoffs? That's some big questions to be asked. Before I get into obviously reacting to the lottery and finding out where each team's going to be picking, I'm going to quickly touch on the previous mock draft, which was done about a month ago by ESPN. This was obviously before they knew where each team would be picking, and it was just a rough indication as to where the prospects sit in terms of their rankings. So obviously we know Vic is going to be the number one pick, so not really much to say about that. Originally, obviously Scoot Henderson was expected to be that second guy. Brandon Miller looks like he's surpassed him, and depending on who gets the second overall pick, that'll basically lock in Brandon Miller at number 2. You have Scoot at number 3, Amen Thompson at number 4 from Overtime Elite, Jarris Walker from Houston at pick 5, and then at number 6 we have Amen Thompson's twin brother Osor. Indiana Pacers at 7, Cam Whitmore from Villanova, the freshman. Anthony Black going to my Washington Wizards supposedly, but yeah, I think that'd be a good pick, but we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. Grady Dick at number 9 from Kansas, Taylor Hendricks from UCF going to the Mavericks at 10. Jordan Hawkins, the UConn shooting guard, who obviously had an amazing Final Four and led them to the national championship this year. He's jumped up draft boards tenfold. Nick Smith Jr. pick 12. Keontae George at number 13. And to round out the lottery, Cason Wallace, the combo guard from Kentucky, at pick 14. The last thing before we get into it is just to talk about the odds for the mock draft. So not the mock draft, the actual draft lottery odds. So we have Detroit, Houston, San Antonio, all at 14% to get the number 1 pick. Charlotte is number 4 at 12.5%. Portland at number 5 with 10.5%. Orlando at 9% odds. Indiana 6.8%. Washington 6.7%. Utah 4.5%. Dallas 3%, Chicago 1.8%, Oklahoma City 1.7%, Toronto 1%, and New Orleans 0.5%. So you basically rule those bottom teams out from getting the number 1 pick. It'll be very, very, very unlikely that ever happens. Yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it and let's react to the 2023 NBA Draft Lottery. It's always interesting to see who they actually bring out as representatives. Obviously got David Griffin here for the Pelicans, and we know what he did 4 years ago when he picked Zion Williamson at number 1. The jury's still out about Zion and whether that was the right pick. Not too familiar with Bobby Webster. Nick Collison, long time no see from him. He had a amazing longevity with OKC, 15 years with that team. Dalen Terry, surprising that they invite some of these guys. Nico Harrison had an interesting first year with the Mavericks, obviously missing out on the playoffs. Colin Sexton, I don't even know why he's there as the Utah rep, to be honest, because are they even going to keep him long term? I don't know much to say about Wes Unseld. No comment. Tyrese Halliburton, yeah, one of my favourite players outside of obviously the superstars and the big name players. He's starting to get to that level though. Jamal Mosley is doing a good job with that Orlando Magic team. Brandon Roy, yeah, he was one of my favourite players of all time. Sad to see where his career ended up with all the injuries. Mark Williams, promising young guy for the Charlotte Hornets. And Peter J. Holt, I don't know who that is, but... And then Ime Udoka. Good to have him back in the NBA coaching fold despite all of that controversy. And Ben Wallace, Big Ben. One of my favourite players as well growing up. I love that Detroit team from 04 with, not many superstars on that team, but they still managed to win a title. And, I've got a soft spot. I'm a bit of a sucker for guys or teams that can win it like that without any big name players. So now the exciting stuff happens. Now we're about to get into the actual announcements of each pick and where every team will be picking. So here we go. Mark Tatum's about to come out. Let's go. Let's get it. I actually prefer this guy as the commissioner, to be honest. I don't really like Adam Silver, so I think he just holds himself a bit better, Mark Tatum, but maybe I'm biased. Here we go. Okay, New Orleans, no surprises there. Again, they only had 0.5% of a chance to get number one, so not surprised. Raptors, okay. Everything's sort of playing out as predicted so far. Okay. Alright, so it's still the same, still what we expected. I guess he has so many picks though over the next few years. It doesn't really matter where this one ends up. Orlando, pick 11. A bit different from what they got last year at number 1 with Paolo Banchero, but they can add another piece to that exciting young roster. This is a good outcome for the Mavericks. Obviously, they tanked that last game to try and get this pick and got that massive financial loss against their name because the NBA fined them. So I'm glad to see that they got that pick in the end and it all paid off for them. And we'll see what they end up getting. Maybe Taylor Hendricks at that pick. If he actually stays, if he slides down to number 10, I think he'll probably go higher. Jazz at number 9. And my Wizards at number 8. Okay. That's all right. I'm glad. It's a top 10 pick. I think we can get something good out of that. There's a lot of good prospects around that mark. Pacers at 7. Okay. There's talks Taylor Hendricks could be around that pick. He could be anywhere from 7 to 10. But we could even manage to get Grady Dick. If we can get Grady Dick at pick 8, I'd like that. I'd like to see that. Number 6. So Magic have 2 picks inside the top 12. Damn. They got some exciting young talent then. It'd be interesting to see if they try and trade up or if they keep that pick. Detroit fell to 5. You're kidding. They had the highest odds to get the number 1 and they fall to number 5. Oh, sucks to be a Detroit fan. Just saying. I mean, I know you had Cade Cunningham a few years back and that's obviously gone well, and Jaden Ivey last year at pick 5, but you could probably get a good player at pick 5, don't get me wrong, but when you're in the running to be to get the number 1 pick and you only end up with pick 5, especially in the draft with a generational prospect in Victor Wembanyama, you'd be very disappointed as a Detroit fan. And if there are any Detroit fans out there, let us know, because I'd love to see your reaction to this and what you have to make of not getting inside the top 4. Here we go now. Top 4 to be announced. Oh, you're kidding. The Houston Rockets. Damn. Okay. Alright. I gotta Oh, okay. Damn. Blazers got some help now. They might get screwed at that position. You're kidding? San Antonio has just got the number 1 pick. History repeats itself. You can't help but think, is the NBA rigged? Is the NBA lottery rigged? We obviously know the talks about the New York Knicks getting that number 1 pick with the bent envelope when David Stern obviously pulled it out, and that was the year that Patrick Ewing got drafted. But history repeats itself now anyway. So Tim Duncan was the last number 1 pick in Spurs history in 1997, and prior to that, 10 years before that, David Robinson. And we know how both their careers ended up, helped the Spurs win a number of championships. Both were named MVP, both are Hall of Famers. Is Victor Wembanyama's career going to follow the exact same path as those guys? And I think, to be honest, it's the perfect franchise for a guy like Victor Wembanyama to be a part of. With Greg Popovich, we know that the way they develop their young players. We know, obviously, the talent levels that they've brought in the past with guys like Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, especially that European talent. They know how to nurture those European guys coming in, and I think it's the perfect spot for a European player to be in, to really develop and harness his full potential. So, you know, there was talks that Greg Popovich might have actually been considering retiring from coaching, but now when you have a guy like Victor Wembanyama that you can coach and coming into the franchise that will immediately help turn him around, I think it's definitely no-brainer for Pop to stick around now. They were the heavy favorites at the start. It was them and the Jazz that were pretty heavy favorites to be the number 1, or to get the number 1 pick. So I think it all eventuated the right way, and I think it's good. They'll increase their ticket sales. They'll get back to those levels that, you know, of the championship winning Spurs, that the days of Tim Duncan and like I said, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, and those kind of players that were a part of that team initially. So yeah, and obviously you know the history as well with international players. Like I mentioned, they've got an Argentinian, a Frenchman, you know, a guy from the Virgin Islands. Even though Tim Duncan's American, obviously he's got that more low-key sort of nature. He's not really a in-your-face kind of superstar who likes all the lavish things in life. And even guys like Boris Diaw, another Frenchman who was on that roster, you know, Thiago Splitter, Brazilian. I think they've just got that ability to really, you know, have that connection to that European player. So yeah, I think it's an amazing outcome for Victor. I think out of all the teams that he could have gone to, I think the Spurs are the best place for him, and I think we're going to see the full potential really come out. All the best to San Antonio now. They're going to have a franchise cornerstone, and it's now going to shake up the rest of the draft, because then now we have to work out where the rest of these teams think the best players available are and what players would be best fitted to their particular franchise. So let us know what you think, because Marcus and I are going to do a mock draft now of the full lottery, now that we know obviously the positions and where each team's going to be picking. It's going to give us a better idea of being able to predict this and give you the best idea of how we think the NBA teams will be thinking come draft night, and what their mindset will be in terms of making these selections. So look out for that one. But yeah, let us know what you guys think of the draft order. Were you disappointed? Were you happy? Who would you like to see your team draft? Yeah, any suggestions for any future videos, let us know. We're on the grind. We're trying to get to as many subscribers as we can, and make sure you hit the sub button, because we want you to be part of the Benchmob community. I guess that's all from me. Couple of surprises, like I mentioned. That's what the draft lottery brings every single year, and there'll be some happy teams, some disappointed parties, but all in all, I'm happy with how everything turned out from my side, being a Wizards fan, getting the number 8 pick. And obviously, if you're a Spurs fan, congratulations, you just got Victor Wembanyama. So that's all from me, guys. From Danko, this has been an absolute pleasure, and yeah, we'll see you in the next video, guys. Peace out.